This is a super long comment. I want to talk about it, and I'm going to go from memory because it's a really long comment. It says, I had to revise my comment. I grew up in Clarksville, Iowa, which is a small town. I now live in Waterloo, Iowa, which is not a huge city. It's a bigger city, but it's very diverse. And I have for 35 years. I use the word queer to refer to myself all the time. I consider myself, so I don't remember the rest of the quote, but I kind of remember the idea. And I want to talk about it. I broke out my Are You Queer shirt. This shirt came out, my friend Dan painted this in 1992. This used to be the mural on the gay bar at the 620 in Iowa City behind it. And I have the rights to this. When he passed away, I asked the family for the rights. I have since, this is an original, but I also have since made these shirts and helped, like there was a youth center in Iowa City that sold them to make money, that kind of thing. So queer, you talk about queer, and you were kind of, I think, angry at me for what I said. And let me clarify. When I say I don't feel comfortable using the word queer, I don't attach to it. I don't feel any particular, it doesn't empower me. It doesn't bring me power. I don't really care for the word. I really like the specific. I really like using the word lesbian because it's very specific. I like what lesbian means to me. It took me time to grasp how important lesbian was to me. I had to practice it. My friend Sean, who was a gay man, encouraged me. My lesbian friends encouraged me, and then my girlfriend encouraged me. Because lesbian was dripping with a lot of bad connotations for me. I thought it was very sexual. I didn't think it could ever be applied to me just as my sexuality. And the beauty of lesbian is it is very specific. The world knows when I say lesbian what I'm talking about. It's just a really good word. Oh, I gotta go. So sorry, my dog didn't feel well apparently for a second. So I wanted to talk about I want to clarify what I meant by making other people feel comfortable. So I don't really care if straight people feel comfortable. That was not my intention when I was talking about bringing them into the conversation. Now, sometimes, yes, as someone that is a community outreach person, and I have spent many years, especially in the 90s, when I was very active in the AIDS movement and in the gay rights movement in the early 90s into the 2000s, I would often very carefully use my words and the way I was talking, because I had a lot of conversations with people that would be considered on the right now. Back then, often they were on the left, but we were talking about LGBT rights. We were talking about that, and I was very careful with my terminology to make them feel comfortable so I could have a discussion. And I went to Republican meetings. I had a lot of talks with people that were that hated me, that hated just the fact that I was a lesbian. That pissed them off. And I had conversations with them, hard ones, because I knew at that time we were not going to win without allies, and we needed to turn hearts, because you can change all the laws you want, but if you don't have the hearts of the people, if you don't make people see the humanity, you're not going to win that battle. And that's what worked in the 90s. And I'm not saying it worked now. I'm not as active as I was then. I just don't have the time. I don't have the resources. I just don't have it in me anymore to be as active. I used to create community events and invite in anybody that I could possibly get to come in and have that conversation, which often meant people that hated us. And that was hard, but it worked. Having those one-on-one conversations made a huge difference in our ability to get people on our side. Because if the LGBT community is, say, 10%, I think is about what most polls land us at 10%. We're not going to win with 10% of the population. We need to expand that to straight people, to people that don't consider themselves to be even politically active, right? So that's kind of that part. But as far as making people feel, I'm talking about having events in rural areas and not using queer, that was often a very conscious choice, because there are a lot of people in rural Iowa, I'm talking about Iowa now, or rural areas who are very isolated. They might be on Facebook with their friends, their family. They're not even out as far as online goes. They're probably out in their community, with their friends. But there are a lot of, especially older people, but even younger, who are raised in conservative families, who are very careful about being out, and they may not be online. They're not seeing the community online. They're not going to in-person events. So they have very little exposure to the word queer. They're barely able to say gay. And I see that those people will feel some kind of way about the word queer being used in an event. And when I am doing community outreach, my personal opinion about how queer makes me feel, or about how it makes people that are used to using it feel, is irrelevant. It's not important. What's important is what's going to bring in the most people that need that event and need that community. And if that means not using the word queer, then I don't use it. Again, I'm not as active as I am, used to be. Also, just talking about, I understand what you're saying. Queer brings power to a lot. This mural meant a lot to me. It was super cool. We had these t-shirts. We wore these out. And wearing these shirts in the 90s was a big ass deal. Like, this is putting it right in people's faces. And I think that's where you're coming from. You want to put it right in people's faces. Look, I'm here, I'm queer, and I'm not going anywhere. We used to say that all the time. Like, I didn't have a problem with that. It just wasn't a very personal, the word personally didn't bring me power, right? But I do think it does bring a lot of power. Same with the word, like you said, dyke. It brings a lot of people power. I don't even use gay to describe myself anymore. I have very much landed on the lesbian term. Like, I just really find power in that. I think that's what's important, is finding what brings you the power to be out, to be whatever you need to be, even just regardless of the outside world, what brings you internal power and confidence. I think that's important. So yeah, I don't want you to misconstrue me saying like we should never use queer. That is not what I meant. I think for me, sometimes my personal opinion about it, if I thought using the word brought in the demographic I was trying to reach, then I would use it. But often when I'm creating something, it's within this rural community where people may, and a lot of older people do have they don't feel good about the word because of past, because of how they were treated in the past and how that word was used as a weapon against them. Some people can gain back that power and take back that word. Some people don't, or don't want to. They don't feel like it's necessary. So I know this is really long, but I think it's a really good conversation to have and understand, like, I love that it brings you power and it brings a lot of people power, or it gives them a better descriptor for how they are within their sexuality and their gender. It can be a useful term for that. I agree. I just don't feel that for it. But yeah, this shirt, when I used to wear it, in your face, I'd love to wear it. I used to love to wear it and see people's faces. And I don't wear it as much now just because I'm working with the public where it's not appropriate, because I'm in family settings and I'm in settings where my personal politics don't come into play. Me existing as a butch lesbian already is a political statement and a powerful statement. And if I can put people at comfort in part of my responsibility as a butch lesbian and part of my attachment to butch is going out in the world and having a positive influence. When someone who is like, I hate lesbians or I hate trans people or I hate gay people meets me, and I am a outward visible representation, and they actually have a conversation with me and they're like, God, I kind of like that person. I'm not saying I can change their heart and their minds or their religious, ideas or whatever, but sometimes planting that seed of, gosh, she was really nice, makes a difference. It might be a long game and it might never work, but sometimes it's worth it for me. For me, that's my personality. So I don't disagree with you on a lot of your points. I don't. And I love that this conversation can be had. If queer brings you power, absolutely run with it. If it doesn't, you are under no obligation to make it. So grab what works for you, what feels good for you, and use what terms work for your mission in life. What's going to work for bringing people in or pushing them away if you don't want to deal with them. So anyway, Cruz says, that's enough, Mom. Stop talking. Stop talking, Mommy. See, Cruz? All right. Anyway, I do love this shirt. It's a great shirt. Have a good day, and thank you for bringing this into my comment section. I think the reason I'm talking so long is I miss having these in-person discussions, sitting around a table. I just don't have the chance to do it anymore. So this comment gave me the opportunity to kind of hash through some things. I know it's kind of one-sided, but I hope people chime in the comments to their thoughts.